Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's episode 289 of the Audible Farm Podcast, and this episode is brought to you by the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association. The Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association is all about supporting and connecting local artists, musicians, and creators right here in north central Iowa. Head over to fdfineartsassociation.org to find their community calendar packed with upcoming concerts, art shows, theater events, and more. While you're there, check out their podcast, FDT. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts. That's the Fort Dodge Fine Arts Association, celebrating creativity and community in the Fort Dodge area. This week is a solo episode. I don't know. I got a bunch of weird topics to talk about. Just stuff that, like, as I sit around, I just kind of jot down and think about stuff that's happened. So let's kind of just go into the episode and we'll talk about it.
It's the Audible Farm Podcast with your host, Peter Stockdale.
Okay, we're here. So it's kind of fun. It's been a week off. That's absolutely amazing. By a week off, I mean just from this podcast. I do, as I work, that's what I kind of do. I work for a company and I produce podcasts for them. And this company, it ends up being me working for like 9 podcasts overall. And this one is mine on the side. This is my personal kind of passion project. It does not generate me a whole lot of money, but it's kind of fun to do. So this is the one that I kind of, if anything has to happen, this one kind of goes by the wayside just a little bit. I mean, it's not like it's going away, but it has, but it's not. So that's just kind of what happened last week. No episode. I just needed a little bit of time to recharge. And I didn't, I think about how I'm like, quote unquote, busy, but I'm not always like, busy. I run into some people and I realize they're busier than I am. And I feel like I'm a busy person, and it makes me feel bad for taking time to myself to do things that I want to do. So I appreciate everybody that reached out and said, hey, don't worry about it. Everything's good. Thank you for doing the podcast, and we'll just see you when you come back. And it was kind of fun. I didn't really expect that kind of a reaction, but I appreciate it. So thank you all very much. It's also weird when I took a week off and everybody started commenting and reaching out and stuff. I gained a handful of new followers. So hello, everybody. That's kind of odd. Just a weird way to jump into the algorithm. Missing a week helped out more than doing 200 episodes beforehand. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it was great. I just do a lot of podcasts for a lot of people, and I do a lot of content for a lot of people. So it leads me to kind of just take a little bit of time off on this one. As you've noticed, I've like kind of made some short form content for this here and there, but I'm not super consistent with it, mostly because I kind of like my free time. So I put this out when I can, and I thank you guys all for reaching out and saying hello, etc., etc. But if I ever miss a week, or you're looking for something else, there's plenty of other stuff. I've kind of talked about it in past episodes. If you go look around, it's almost like a whole new breed of people out there making media, and the ability to make it yourself, as we've been doing here at Audible Farm. It's you just have to have the time to do it, and if you want to, you can. And there's a lot of cool places out there doing it now. So, one of them is Steve Shetler. I saw he was looking for people to kind of come on a show. It's the Iowa Music Showcase, he calls it. It's on Steve Shetler Media. Check it out. Lots of followers. Great guy. Lots and lots and lots of experience there with Steve. And he does, it's basically like a little live question, play a couple songs, comment, radio segment, the good old radio segment. And but it's broadcast basically everywhere, so you can, watch it anywhere and somewhat on demand as well. So go check that out if that's something you're interested. If you're a singer-songwriter, you're listening to this, you're looking for a new outlet. Some of his content reached like, a couple odd million views last month. I was looking through his social media and saw that. That's boom, that's primo. So if you're looking for that kind of exposure, I don't know, maybe that's somebody to reach out to, but that could be a good option to go for. So what has been going on? Let's talk about something really fun. Jam night. The jam night, the third Thursday jam night. It's the one in Fort Dodge at the Eagles Club. It used to be at the Rock Room, and but right now it's at second floor of the Eagles Club. So if you go to the Eagles in Fort Dodge, it's the second floor, not the third floor, the top ballroom, but the second floor. So that's the room. If you've never been there, that's the place to go. If you're a musician, if you like to play, we're talking on any given night, some of the best go up there, and it's really kind of fun to see that because it's a little structured where Jeremy will get people up there with other people they haven't played with before, and it makes for some interesting combinations that happen, and it makes for some interesting fun to happen as well. And you never really know. Sometimes some people will buddy up, and it's just like, well, I'll sing this if you play it. And it's like, okay, fine, whatever, and some people just randomly jump in and sing it, and it's like, whoa, this person sang really good, but maybe they only wanted to sing one song, and now they're out of there. So like that's the kind of fun stuff I like to see. But the last few jams have been absolutely insane weather. It's just kind of, whatever, Midwest, it's the weather, it's the season for it, but it always seems to like snow on exactly that day. And it's one of those deals where if you get there, you might not make it back. It's that snowy, and there's people that have, traveled, farther than I have. I get it. But at the same time, even just like going from like the Humboldt-ish area to the Fort Dodge-ish area, we're talking just the distance of a county. We'll just call it 20 miles. And, even if you have to just drive straight down one road, it's not always the easiest when it's super snowy out. So, I actually was supposed to be a host musician a couple months back, and I couldn't make it because of the weather. And it's kind of wild because I went to the last one and I went outside and I said, man, I better take off. So I went back upstairs and kind of just started hanging out, and I was going to leave early. Then Ober says, hey, you want to play? There's not a lot of people here. And I said, sure, I'll play just a few songs. And I got to go up there with some younger people, which was like ultra fun. Jefferson Fossbender was singing and kind of leading the show there. But yes, so it was kind of cool to be able to play with like literal actual high school kids. Not kids, young adults. Let's go that route. But it's really kind of neat because I never had the guts to do that when I was their age. Was I maybe good enough? I don't know. I could have pulled it off, I guess, but holy smokes. So it's really cool to have a younger generation. Like even, I don't know, it's so cool just to have them out there. Like I was around jam nights and I was just too timid to do things when I was their age, but it was really cool to go up there and it's just like, these are the chords. All right, we'll just kind of follow along, and drummer's just like, well, here's the beat, and it's spot on. The bass sounds great. One of my favorites was we got done playing a song, and Drew, the bassist, he comes over and he's like, was I doing all right on that song? And I said, hey, we stopped, ended at the same time. I didn't notice anything sounded weird, so you did great. Even if it was wrong, it sounded good. So just boom, keep it up, and it's just fun to be around those kind of people, just out there willing to try the new things. And that's, maybe not really like the topic I'm going to kind of push into today, but I don't know. When you were younger, did you have the guts to do that? It seems to be something I've talked to a handful of people about, and it's come up on like other podcasts where I wish at a certain age I would have done this. It's not that you didn't do this, but you wished you would have done more of it. Or like when I was in school, I played sports and I didn't actually do plays and musicals, but I wished I would have, or something like that. And or maybe they just like, you're old enough where like back in the day that just like didn't mesh. You weren't allowed to be in one or the other. Not that you wouldn't, but it's I just think it's just that microcosm of society. It's just, you're not necessarily allowed to be one thing if you're the other. So nowadays there's like no rules. There's kids that are like in sports, but also like in the musical or in the play or something like that. And I think that's kind of like what the topic of today is possibly going to be. So like, I'm just looking at like some of the stuff that I've done recently. Does anybody else fall into this weird thing where you feel like imposter syndrome is a thing? I'll give you an example. Even though you are like, let's put it this way. I go to jam nights. I play guitar. I'm in bands. I play a fair amount of shows. I've played in, multiple genres with multiple people. But sometimes I just feel like it's like, am I really that good of a guitarist? Because I see other people and they're really good. That's imposter syndrome. That's just a lack of confidence or something like that. And I do go through waves of that. Sometimes it's when I'm trying to change my style a little bit. It's tough to, once you get comfortable with one thing, to change it to another. That's what I've found. And I think that exacerbates the imposter syndrome, where it's like, I like what this other person's doing. I'm going to try to be more like that. And then off the cuff, that's not what comes out, even if that's what you're trying to practice, in the basement. So that becomes something that I feel like maybe a lot of people run into. That's one of the questions I like to ask a lot of people, is just kind of like, what are your feelings while you're playing? Not necessarily like, what do you feel while you play the guitar, but like, what's the struggle like for you? Is it fun, at times, or is that just learning the guitar is a great life lesson where you're just like, I'm going to have to struggle and struggle and struggle until finally I'm like, boom, here we go. I'm actually competent at this now. And now we can start over again and learn a new thing and just keep adding things in there. I guess I don't know. But if you struggle with that, is that something that you have a trick, a way to kind of just solve that? Or was that like a one-time thing where you're just like, oh, well, now I fit in? Or let's say, like, as your style kind of like fills in, have you found yourself to be not as well rounded? Those are like maybe some other questions I would like to ask some people out there. But if you have any thoughts on that, drop something in the comments, hit me up, see what you got to, I just want to see what you guys got to say about that. But there's some weird stuff where, like, I know people have always been like, oh, you should do an interview, have somebody interview you on your podcast, but maybe this will be the thing. At what point in time do you realize you're actually good at something? I'll ask you all that, but at the same time, I think about that too. So I always wanted to fix things, I guess. It was weird when I bought my first guitar and I had to change strings, and there's no internet to be like, this is how you do it. Or you could like read a book, but it's only words, and there's not really a whole lot of pictures. And if there are, they're crappy. And so it's like, how do I change guitar strings? And then you finally change them a few times and you get good at it, and now it's just like whatever. Or like just basic guitar maintenance. It's like, this thing broke, I don't know how to fix it. I gotta take it to a shop and then let them order a part and then take it apart and put it back together and solder and desolder and whatever. And now it works, and I play. But like, that time away from using this thing always kind of bothered me. So one of the things I thought, when the internet was around and you could just like learn anything you wanted to, which is something I have on here, where you just, if you're curious, you're going to be rewarded. You can learn basically anything on the internet. You just gotta look it up and take the time to do it. And that's the thing is, I get it. I'm just as lazy at times as other people, where it's like, I don't want to do things. So I get just like using the internet as a device to waste your time on. But yes, there are times where it's just like, I want to learn how this works. How does, in the most basic sense, a guitar work? And it's like, oh, well, it's a guitar pickup and this is just a magnet thingy. And even if I don't need to understand all of the physics of, making an electromagnet and picking up frequencies and all this other nonsense, you can just be like, well, this thing, when the strings wiggle by it, it makes noise-ish, kind of. It does a thing. And those two things, and then you just basically break it down into like how everything works. So that made me think like, oh, if I need to fix something, how do I fix it? And I kind of just learned how to like solder things, which kind of made me curious, where it's like, well, if this is how this circuit works, then if you just take this out, then this works this way, or that works that way. Or I can add one of these in there, or take some out. Or if something breaks, you can kind of like hot wire it and make it still work, even if like something is broken, to some extent, I guess. And that's a kind of a fun thing, because as I learned those things, people would every now and then just be like, this broke. And it was kind of fun to just fix things for people. I still remember I was talking with Jesse about this. Jesse Wilson, what's up? He reaches out to me usually like once a week, almost every episode. And he's just like, oh, check this out. This was fun. And he'll like clip a little section of my podcast and like send it to me or snap it to me or something and be like, yeah, watching this is good stuff. But yeah, I was talking to him recently about the very first thing I ever fixed for somebody that was like electric, was they brought this over and it didn't work, and it was like a stereo receiver, basically like a thing you plug speakers and all the other junk into, and then that's got the volume and the whatever all in it. So that's your little amp thing. It's like a stereo amp, whatever. And it just didn't work. But I realized like the volume knob was really loose and wiggly. And then when I opened it up, I realized the volume knob was like basically shorting out some stuff on the circuit, and it was grounding itself. And it would just, if you wiggled it off of it, if you wiggle it off of where it was grounding itself, the volume knob would work normal. But if you let go of it, it would just ground itself. So you would end up being able to like hear stuff until you let go of the knob, and then it just didn't work. So it was a really easy repair. You just tighten the knob and then it was done. And I felt like a genius. I felt like, oh man, I can do all the electronics. I can just bring me anything. What's that schematic say over there? I can read that. But I'm not that good. But I felt like that. It was kind of fun. It's kind of like when you first learn like some of your first chords or play along to your first song, and you're like, oh, well, geez, I can play anything. This is cool. So that's kind of like, I don't know, you get those good moments where you're kind of like learning things. You don't realize you're learning stuff, but it applies other places, and it's kind of neat. So that was like one of the first things I ever fixed. I also remember, fixing like really weird things where somebody was like, oh, I broke this. I was trying to take it apart and get, change the battery, and I just like ripped it in half, and now the cables are ripped. And it's like, well, I can try and solder it. Why not? We'll see what happens. Most of the stuff is usually just like, if there's nothing broken or burned out on any of the boards, it just comes down to connection points, and you can test those and just resolder or fix something, if it's been broken. It's kind of a weird thing. The other fun part about this is sometimes you can get stuff and you're like, I'm not sure why this doesn't work, but I can look it up on the internet and try and figure it out, I guess. Maybe somebody else ran into the same issue, and maybe we'll be able to fix this. Good examples of that would be things like, well, I did have a couple examples. I forgot what they were, but the fun one is if there you go. It's kind of get weird there, but if you're watching the video, the microphone. This microphone actually belonged to somebody else, and it is a Shure SM58. It's a Beta 58. It's just missing the badge. There's all, if you can see the little rectangle part there. But they were like, oh, this is broken. I borrowed it from somebody years and years and years ago. Then I eventually bought it, and then I broke it, and now it's just been sitting here. So I was like, well, what's wrong with it? I don't know. Okay, so I take the top off, which is this little like shield on the outside. Boom, that thing comes off. I don't even know what you want to call it, just the cover. And on the inside, there's this like voice coil thing, and that's like the doodad that when you're talking into it like moves and wiggles and does stuff. And then it's kind of like the guitar pickup, it's the thing inside of here that when you're blabbing into it, takes the electro frequencies and does stuff. And I think it goes through like a magnet maybe into some mount, and then it's into I don't know, this thing is called like a transformer, makes sense, whatever, to shape the sound and do the thing to make it whatever, so when it goes out through the chords, it does the thing it needs to do. Easy peasy, right? Whatever. So I take the cap off this thing, and it's literally like the whole voice coil is like just busted off. There's like a little mount that it's mounted to, which I believe is like what the magnet is mounted to, and that thing is just like sheared off. It's almost like somebody took the cap off and then dropped it, or just broke it, or I don't know what happened. So either way, I look at this thing and I'm like, this thing's toast. We need to just get new guts for it and it'll be fine. And so I get on the internet and I'm like, how much are new guts for this thing? Has anybody ever fixed one of these things? What does it look like if you try to take one of these apart all the way? Can you like put it all the way back together if you really want to? Or can you like buy like separate chunks for it? And can I just buy pieces for this? I don't know how this works. Never fixed a microphone. But yeah, so I look online and somebody was like, yeah, this is what happened. Somebody did exactly what I described. They took the cap off to do something to their microphone, and they dropped it and it broke the end off. Everything was still intact and nothing broke except for like where it mounted. Basically, it's like the top part, it mounts into this really hard rubber washer, so it does not move almost at all. But if you drop it, it has at least a little bit of give, and it won't bang into the sides and stuff. And it's the thing that's connected to this washer that's broken. So I go, like, is this fixable? I can see two wires hanging out of it. I don't know what's going on. And I go online and watch this video of somebody taking one apart. And they say, oh, if you take this inside cap off and you take these little doodads off of here, that'll expose like the wiring and the actual, like, I don't know if it's like a filament on top of the voice coil, but it looks really cool. It's like super, super thin. Don't touch it. I just got a magnifying glass out to look at it because I didn't want to break it. I don't know how durable it is, but it's basically if you breathed on it, this thing would like wiggle and move. And that is where, when you talk into the microphone, that's how the thing works. So there's all these like little electric doodads going on in there. And then out of that is 2 pieces of wire with 2 little pads. And I'm like, oh, that is exactly where these 2 wires that I found go to. These 2 wires are like hair sized. I had to get a magnifying glass out and a razor blade in order to like strip them because I didn't have any I don't have anything that small to strip them with. And every time I tried to strip it with something that was bigger, it would like wreck it. So razor blade, boom, 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 get them all soldered together. And guess what? The microphone I'm talking into right now was in 2 pieces, literally just like days ago. And I didn't know if this thing was fixable. I was just like, oh, I get how you'd think this is garbage. It's probably junk. Let's buy new guts for it. Like I went through all the things. Then it's just like, is this fixable? Can you fix it? Well, yeah, you can. It turns out that like the part that broke is not actually something that really messes too much with the functionality. I'm not going to say this microphone's at 100%. I'm not going to say this microphone will last as long as it would had it been the original parts in it or brand new parts, because I do have some stuff in here that's just like 2 chemicals you can mix together, and it makes this like bonded like epoxy kind of like plastic stuff. It kind of like melts plastic into other plastic, like chemically. I don't know exactly what it does. Basically high-end super glue for plastic. So I get some of that stuff out, and I toothpick it all in there, and I hold it all together, and I get the thing glued back together. When it's all glued back together, I put the cap on. I kind of bang it around a little bit to make sure it's not going to break. It looks like it's good to go. I put the thing back over the voice coil, and I tape it all back down. And I didn't glue anything because I didn't want to like put the wrong kind of glue in there that wouldn't come out. I didn't know what to put in there. So that was one thing I didn't do. But this thing works fine. It's mind-blowing how well this still works, but also like the piece that broke was non-functional. I got everything soldered in there, again, magnifying glasses, and I had like these super long pointy tweezer type things that I was using to kind of hold everything in there, and got it all together, put it all back together, let it sit for a day again, kind of banged it around a little bit. I'm not trying to break it, but I'm just kind of trying to see like if this thing gets thrown in a backpack, is it still going to work? If this thing, if somebody like takes it out and just kind of sets it on the ground from 4 inches up, is it still going to last? This is basically nothing more than a backup for somebody now, even though I am using it literally right now to record a podcast. But yeah, this is how this stuff works. It's kind of crazy. So like, even though you can have these imposter syndrome moments like that, sometimes it's fun to look back and see how much you've grown or collected over the course of, maybe not even realizing you're doing it. That could be with playing guitar, and every now and then you play something and you're like, oh wow, I guess that came out of somewhere. I must have learned that somewhere, or like, that must have been influenced me out of something, same thing with like these electronics. I'm not like somebody that's going to repair stuff. Like I've had amplifiers that I've taken to other people because I'm not going to fix some stuff. It's kind of like car repair. I'll do oil changes and all that normal stuff, filters and just regular stuff. I'll do that. But like, if we're going to be tearing things apart, I'm taking it somewhere else. Why? Because they've got the tools. They know how to do it. They've done it a bunch. But some of this stuff, like I said, you find out it's just like, oh, this is just some wires came apart here. I just barely had to take something apart, connect it, glue something together, and then like solder the wires, and then put the cap back on it and put the top back on, and it was done. And now, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of cool. Has anybody ever like run into that? So here's another example. So my job is kind of fun because I work in marketing, and I get to see a lot of people, and I get to see people that some of them are like, I guess you would call them like prominent people in their community or in their industries and things like that. And somebody out of nowhere was talking about, yeah, I just don't know. Sometimes I feel like I have imposter syndrome. And then somebody was like, yeah, me too. And it was like, well, that person does too. And then there was another person in the room that go, yeah, I do too sometimes. It happens, but then it's weird because exactly like I'm describing, you'll have moments where you're like, oh, I do know what to do. And everybody goes through these emotions. It's so fun to know I have them, and everyone else goes through them. It's not really that comforting because sometimes it's not easy to come out of these emotions. But, I had one of those, with fixing this microphone. I'm literally just going to fix it for free for somebody. Why? Because I don't have the parts to put it together exactly perfectly. Like I said, I don't have glue the right glue, and I didn't want to like glue it down and have somebody never be able to open it up. I also like didn't have any sort of the correct tape, and I didn't want to put one on there that would like buzz. So I just took the tape that was on there, put it back on, and then kind of just like heated it so the adhesive would re-stick. And yeah, it's back together. It works fine. We're recording a podcast episode with it. But yeah, I think some of this just comes down to also, as I've recorded and done a lot of podcasts for other people, like things that I realize I learn, or things that seem easy to me that don't compute with other people. It's fun because I'm sure there's plenty of that the opposite direction. Like these people are range from industry to professionals to regular people to people that are like maybe in my field even, but they know more than I do. And it's just fun to know that like, even if you don't think you have strengths, you probably do. And believe it or not, one of these professionals even like reached out to me like recently when I saw there was no episode this last week, and I posted about it, said sometimes I just get a little bit burned out, doing too much content. They even reached out to me and said thank you, and that's mind blowing to me. But yeah, it's really kind of cool to just realize that like you probably know more than you think. So just go out there and try it. Why not? I feel that way about guitar. I feel that way about just taking chances. I'm not always the best at it, but not everyone is. Not everyone's the best at everything. But if you're struggling with that imposter syndrome thing, I've heard it recently a couple times from a couple people where it's like, I can't believe that. But everyone goes through that. Just power on through. You'll get there. But yeah, I also think about like looking back on creating content, and so recently I've been talking to a few people about, hey, this is how you can make reels. This is how you can make, shorts. This is how you can make TikToks and things like that. You can, make them in one app that you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with the TikTok app and making TikToks in TikTok, there's a way to like make it and save it and then utilize it elsewhere. There's a way for that out of Snapchat. There's a way to do that out of basically anything. If you want to make like a story, or like there's a way to do that in iMovie, to make iMovie do things like that. And iMovie's free for anybody with a Mac, stuff, Apple things. So if you want to do that, it just takes time. But it was fun to show some people like how to do that. There's also like different softwares and AIs and things like that can help you as well, which, I've utilized some of them to help me for some of the things that I do, and I absolutely appreciate some of the help, but it's not always perfect. I will say that. So if you're like looking to make some stuff like this, the point I was trying to make, I guess, was I do a lot of this. I was looking back at some of the stuff, looking back at the content you've created. It's crazy to think like, there's 289 episodes of this podcast. Like when I went back and did the last episode, the last replay, it like melted my brain to think 200 and some episodes ago, like I was talking to Scott Kirkhart, and that's, if a podcast was ongoing forever, that would have been 5 years, but it was more like 7 years ago. And it's just kind of crazy to like look back at some of those things. We're like me and Jesse, not long after, like we had just been playing music together, maybe about a year by that point, but it's just kind of cool to kind of see us, back then talking about things. But just making content, I've made, I think I counted somewhere in like the 4,000 plus short form videos last year for different things. 4,000 plus. Yeah, that's a lot of content to create, but I guess for people that are trying to stay relevant and trying to create content that's going to be utilized on different platforms over and over and over again, that's that's the thing. I've created them custom from the ground up. I've created them from static things to full blown things. One of the fun things is to show people how to do it, and if they have the time to do it, they'll do it. But at the same time, it does take time to learn how to do and get comfortable with it and kind of get this flow to figure out what you can and can't do and how easy it is to do certain things or not do other things, depending on what softwares you're using. But again, I guess a lot of this just comes down to just use what you want to make content. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Making something is better than not making anything. And if that's your game you want to play, that's the way to do it. But that is also why I don't do a whole lot of extra content for this, because I made 4,000 some odd short form videos for other, avenues last year for different, businesses and things like that. That comes back down to like, thank you again for like, understanding that that is what I've got going on here. This doesn't mean I'm going to shortchange any of the companies that I work with, or any of the other podcasts I work with, because a lot of those, that's, I'm working for somebody to do that. So I'm going to come correct on those. And my hobby podcast, which is this one, might take a little bit of a hit. So thank you for, understanding that. Let's see what I got down here on my list of things. Oh yeah. So, I mentioned basically everything. The last thing I have is a fun announcement. Three Finger Betty is coming back for a show. We are going to be at the Octopus in Cedar Falls. So come out to that one. We're opening up for the Rumors. The Rumors are going to be coming off a pretty hot tour, and then they're going to have one of their last shows on that tour in Cedar Falls before going out on a handful more shows, before going to Europe. So we're going to be opening up for the Rumors, not right before they tour, but before they go to Europe. So that's going to be pretty sweet. Can't wait for that one. So come out to that show, I guess, if you guys are in the area, or if you're just looking for something fun to do. Drive on over and see what we're doing, because that show was packed the last time we opened up for the Rumors. It's been a couple years, but it was, and I mean absolutely wall-to-wall packed. I hauled all my stuff out and got it in my car, and then I went back in to enjoy the show, and it was very full. And but yeah, that's the fun part about it. That's the fun part about going to these shows, and you play all the other shows you play just so you can play these types of shows. And it's fun to see the Rumors like going out on tour over and over and over again, and to see my buddy Clint, playing with the Rumors. Clint Wheelman, he's the drummer for Three Finger Betty, which is one of those things where I never really felt that bad that, we're not going to be able to play as many Three Finger Betty shows because Clint's busy doing other things. It's like, well, that's a good thing. That's a good thing that they're out there doing that. I'm happy with that. So come out to the show, watch Clint Wheelman do a double duty show. The guy's an absolute beast on the drums, deserves every drop of recognition he gets all over the place whenever people reach out to him and say "what's up," because that man is the man. He comes out to the jams in Fort Dodge on when he can, the third Thursday jams. He plays with Andy Jewell. They got a show coming up with the Sleepover, so that's another double duty show for Clint, because he also plays with the Sleepover. He plays with a lot of bands, and he does, because he's very good. And the Rumors are ultra fun to go watch. So absolutely check that out. Absolutely, you got to check that out. That is February 28th, Octopus, College Hill. Check out Three Finger Betty's social media for more information. And if you want even more information, go to the Rumors stuff, because they're posting about it all the time. They've posted some fun stuff, but I don't know. It's just fun to be on these kind of shows. So there's that show. Otherwise, we got, let's see here. Another show. That's these aren't in order. Okay, March 14th, Three Finger Betty is playing with Rat Fight and So It Goes, and we will be at the Dark Slide. That is going to be awesome. The Dark Slide is at the mall in Des Moines. So Merle Hay, check that out. Skate shop. If you guys have never heard about the Dark Slide or anything like that, this is such a fun place to go to. That was another one. I'd played a show there with Three Finger Betty maybe a year or two ago, and it was cool to see a different group of people than I see at the bar scenes. You got to see, it was like the all ages people. It was the all ages crowd. I had kids there. It was super cool to see teenagers and young 20-year-olds that were just like, yeah, I want to go see some punk rock, and they did, and they loved it. So pretty awesome. So otherwise, we got another show coming up at Locals in Des Moines. Three Finger Betty, Locals in Des Moines, Saturday, March 28th. We're going to be opening it up for Attacked by Badgers and Hookshot. So that's going to be a fun one. And come out to that one. That's a free show, 7 p.m. The Dark Slide show is, I don't know. Does not say how much. $10. There it is. Boom, tiny letters. And that Rumor show is $20. Cedar Falls, the Octopus, College Hill. Absolutely worth every drop of money. I'm not saying that because I'm in the band. I know it's going to be packed. It's going to be a party. It's going to be a fun time, and you're going to want to be there. When you see videos of it, you're going to be like, bummer. I missed that one. But that's where I'm going to be. So if you want to hang out with me this weekend, swing on over to that show. It's going to be a freaking party. Yeah, that's what's going on. So let's go to the outro, and I'll say goodbye. Oh man, what a good episode. These episodes every now and then are almost just like therapy for me. So thank you for listening to these solo episodes. These are the ramblings of an absolute madman sitting alone in a basement talking to nobody. And when I see people out there listening, it's kind of fun. There's actually this weird reverse of fortune. I had a lot of people listen to one of the last solo episodes. They're usually one of the least listened to episodes, understandably so. It's kind of hard to just do a solo episode or to make one that's anybody would even want to listen to, because I tend to sidetrack myself a lot. But yeah, recently there was one that everybody liked to listen to, and I actually had quite a few listens. Somebody reached out and had commented about it, and then it just kind of fun knowing there's people out there actually listening. So thank you guys for listening. I don't know what else to say. There's Audible Farm merch still available if you want some. It's at the shop.audiblefarm.com. I got hats and stuff. Hit me up. I'll bring one to a show. I'll drop it off. Let's trade some merch if you guys got some cool merch. That's another thing I brought up recently to somebody. There's a couple pieces of merch out there that I see people wearing, and I will always bother them about it because it's so cool, and I didn't get one, and it doesn't exist anymore, and I'm mad. Bird Hunter's shirt. I saw one of those recently. I was just like, God, these are some awesome shirts, and wished I had one, but I don't. And if somebody's got one out there and they want to sell it, hit me up. I'll trade you a hat. I'll trade you something. I got shirts too. We'll trade shirts. But yeah, that's basically it. Episode 289, audiblefarm.com for basically everything. Kind of a junky website, but we're actually at Audible Farm basically on all social media. So check us out on social media if you like social media. I post most stuff everywhere, but not always. So good stuff. Thanks for listening. Good talk. I'm out. Peace.